Well, Hollye is joining us today along with Hollye Jacobs. So we have two Hollies. Hollye Jacobs is the author of a new book called The Silver Lining. And she was also diagnosed with breast cancer. Why did you write this book and what's your objective?
I wrote this book because after I was diagnosed, I looked for a lifeline and a guide to help support me through this process. Despite the fact that I am a nurse and a social worker and a child development specialist, I too felt lost, as though I needed something to really help not only me, but also my family and friends through this process, and that book simply didn't exist.
You wrote the book, The Silver Lining, which is so well done. And Hollye, when you first got diagnosed, what was your first reaction?
It was a real shock.
And the shock that she's feeling is what you're talking about in here. You're talking about, look, here's the dialogue you have with yourself. Here are the things that you need to think about and look for at that time to give you that spiritual energy to get through.
Absolutely, and the physical and the intellectual. You know, a cancer diagnosis is so incredibly overwhelming. It was overwhelming for me even as a clinician, but moving from the side of the hospital bed into the bed gave me a whole new perspective on the patient experience. And so I firsthand felt all of the feelings of being overwhelmed and confused. And I realized that there was no place, no book, no guide to really just bring everything down into accessible, relatable information that people could use.
But you had a second diagnosis.
Yes.
Right? This came because the first time there were certain organs affected. Second time you went back and this time took all the lymph nodes, right?
Yes.
Okay, now you talked about anger and guilt at that point, which people, I can understand the anger. The guilt is something that you don't, well, you see coming, but that's why she wrote the book. But talk about the guilt.
Well, the first time I was diagnosed, I just had such a great attitude. And I just felt like, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to help other women. I wanted to be a very positive example to my sons. That was so important to me. But when I was diagnosed in 2013, it was just so different. I was really angry. And that anger really made me feel guilty because I'm alive. And I didn't feel that I had the right to be angry. And so I feel like, who am I to even ever feel angry?
I remember when I was going through everything, I had the same feelings of anger and sadness and survivor guilt. And the first thing that I did was normalize those feelings, sort of accept them. Yes, I'm really angry. Yes, I'm really sad. I feel really sorry for myself. Process those, because unfortunately, if we don't process them, they're gonna come up eventually. And so to go through that pain of processing emotions gets you to the other side.